everybody. Welcome to the Record Player. Scott with you as always. Today's a special day for us. Since 1979, Loverboy has been rocking stages worldwide with massive hits that everybody knows. Working for the Weekend, Hot Girls in Love, Heaven in Your Eyes, Turn Me Loose, just to name a small few. They've become not just one of Canada's most successful bands, but one of the most successful bands worldwide. You couldn't turn on the radio or the TV without hearing this man's voice or seeing him with his trademark bandana and shades back in the day. Loverboy frontman Mike Reno is with us. How are you, Mike?
I'm good, Scott. How are you?
I am fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you're on the road and out doing shows, so I'm glad that you were able to sneak us in for a little bit here this afternoon.
I look forward to it. We've been trying to do this for a few weeks, but we keep getting messed up. But now we're finally.
Timing is perfect. Finally.
Well, it's tough when you're in a tour bus, Scott, because you got to say you can't do it when you're in the tour bus because the engine's too loud. And then you get to the hotel room and it's the wrong time. And then I'm traveling to the next city right when you want to do the interview. So, it's what happens in the world of rock and roll.
Exactly. And where are you? You are in Kansas City right now?
Kansas City, Missouri. And what a town it is. Big show tonight. Us, Loverboy and Foreigner, are on stage. We're on tour. We've got 40 shows left to go. And it's been a sellout ever since we started in just outside of Atlanta about 10 days ago. So we've been kind of getting used to living in the tour bus again and staying in hotels. Comes natural for me. Everywhere I go, I have my room key. Just you gotta have one.
Well, this is life for you, man. You've been doing this a long, long time. I mentioned off the top 1979. It'll be 45 years soon. Loverboy still just keeps going on. This record happened. 45 years. I mean, almost 45 years.
It's hard to believe, really. You know what else I find hard to believe is we walk out on the stage, and I kid you not, there's 19,000, 20,000 people in the audience. And this is in West Palm and Tampa. It's like 95 degrees plus 110% humidity. One night it even poured rain and nobody even left their seats. They just put plastic bags over them and they just kept rocking. You got to hand it to, after all these years, I'm very surprised when stuff like that happens. And you know what it is? It's the songs. They love these songs. Yeah. And we try to promote them. We push them. We play them. Everywhere we go, we play them exactly like the record, as close as we can. Anyways, and the audience loves it. And we get energy from them and they get energy from us. And it's fabulous.
It's a testament to music, obviously, because it's lasted this long.
Yeah.
But it's also a testament to you guys as a band. I mean, most bands that are still touring from past eras, from the 80s, 90s, whatever, a lot of those bands are touring with a different singer, maybe one original member. You guys are still going with the four of you. Unfortunately, Scott Smith passed away back in, was it 2000? But the four of you are still going. I mean, I'm sure it's like a family and you guys have issues, but how do you keep doing this together for this amount of time when everybody else has sort of, become a little bit of themselves? You know what I'm saying?
How did you hear about the issues? It is a thought. You're exactly right. It's like a marriage, really. And some days we have a little friction, and some days it's just wonderful. The other day we had the best show ever. We broke away from the Foreigner Loverboy tour and played in Tulsa, Oklahoma, at the Hard Rock Live, and it sold out. And it was just one of those magic nights. And I wished we'd videoed it, really, because we were just, for some reason, we were just all on fire. Everyone in the band were on 10. The lighting was beautiful. The sound was great. The audience was full. And it was just one of those magic nights. And it was we got there and we went to our rooms. And I kid you not, our drummer had a pool table in his room. I had two master suites, a dining room, a kitchen, a living room, and a foyer. I had actually got lost on the way I didn't know which bedroom to choose. I mean, they treated us so nicely there. And I think that maybe is what started it. And we just went in there and just slayed them. And we have magic nights like that. And that's what keeps us going. And it reminds us that we're together in this. It's totally a team effort. And, we have our off days when somebody's mad at somebody for something stupid. But we're probably one of the most friendliest groups of people I know. We're all together, like you said, other than Scott. But even Ken, our new bassist, has been with us 23 years. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's a testament to a good bunch of guys traveling together, and we got to travel together too in the tour bus.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to watch out you don't step on anybody's feet when you walk by, and it's just it's interesting. It's kind of like being in the army. You got to get up at a certain time. You got to be somewhere at 2:30. You got to sound check at 3:00. You got to be off the stage by 4:30. Dinner's at 5. Concerts at 7:30, and then you just march back into the tour bus and you go and you do it all over again in the next town. Yeah.
I think a lot of the fans think it's, sex, drugs, rock and roll, glamour all the time, but this is a job. This is something that you do, right? I mean, it really is.
Well, don't forget there's a lot of sex, drugs, and rock and roll still left.
There's the reason why you chose this job. It's a lot different than it used to be, though. I mean, when you guys were out touring in the day, it was always promote, right? You were promoting a record, you were promoting the band, promoting videos. You were always out there, selling. Is it? I don't want to say, is it better now, or is it just different now? Are you having more fun now?
We're having way more fun now. I mean, we had fun back in the day, but like you said, there was always somebody breathing down your neck.
Yeah.
There was record companies saying, okay, we know you're on tour, but we want you to start sending us songs for the new album. We were just like pressure. And we had 5 shows a week instead of 3. I mean, sometimes we had 6 shows a week. We were driving around doing concerts, trying to promote the next thing. Right now, we're just kind of enjoying what we're doing. It's kind of like being on the seniors tour. I mean, for golf, you can tell those guys are out there. They're all buddies. They're all playing together. They're all hitting the ball really well, and they're playing golf and they're out in the sunshine. It's very similar to us. We're at that stage in our lives where we don't have to prove anything anymore, other than we have to give a good performance and we have to give it our all, which we do, and that's kind of what we take pride in now.
You've toured over the years with so many different artists. I mean, the list. Journey, Def Leppard, ZZ Top. I can go on and on and on with the amount of different people you've shared stages with. Now out with Foreigner, which is yet another iconic rock band. Last summer with Styx and REO Speedwagon, which you were through Toronto, through our end and through Canada. We had Gowan on the show during that tour, and he was talking about how much fun everybody was having while you guys were out. Had you and Larry ever hooked up previously to that, both being Canadian and now spending time on the road together? Had you guys ever kind of crossed paths in the past?
We'd run into each other a few times along the way, just enough to say hi to each other. But I'll tell you what, last year's tour, and this tour is kind of shaping up to be very similar. All the guys we're hanging out together. I'm golfing tomorrow. Do 9 holes before the show. We're just trying to end. With the drummer for Chris from Foreigner, we have developed a relationship with the Foreigner guys. But last year was a magical year, and I agree with Larry. It was we became like family. Really, we really did. Everybody hung out together. We all still talk to each other. I send little video clips to those guys, and one night we couldn't make it. This is just when COVID was still hanging around, and a couple of the guys got COVID, so we had to not play. We had to stay away from the concert, so we wouldn't spread it around. And I get a video, and it's Larry Gowan singing "Lovin' Every Minute of It" with his band live on stage, and getting the crowd to sing all the crowd parts. And then Kevin Cronin from REO, he sends the closing number they did that night we couldn't make it. Was Working for the Weekend. And then the other day he says, "Listen, Mike, we're playing Calgary and Edmonton. Would it be okay if we use Working for the Weekend for a closing song?" I mean, and you know what I mean? It's just like one thing after another. And these guys are brothers to us for sure. We're definitely connected now. That was a heck of a tour.
That was fantastic. Of all the years that you have been on the road and have toured, and there's probably a million different memories, is there any one either stupid thing that happened or amazing thing that happened that just sticks out in your mind that is your, highlight maybe for you?
Oh my God, I got so many highlights. I'll give you the first one of the first. We finished an album, and Paul and I and Matt, that's the guitar and drummer, and I, we grabbed our girlfriends and we went on one of those excursions to Mexico where you have to, eat where and you get to stay there. And if you change anything, you have to pay extra, so, and we were just kind of getting started. So we didn't have a lot of extra money, and we're in Mexico, in Puerto Vallarta. And this guy comes down to the beach and goes, "Mr. Mike." I go, "Yeah, I'm here." He goes, "You have a phone call?" And I go back and I get on the phone, and it's Bruce Allen from Vancouver. And he goes, "Reno, grab the guys, go to the airport. I've already got your tickets. I want you in Los Angeles this afternoon. Tomorrow you're doing American Bandstand with Dick Clark." And this back then was a big deal. Yeah. I know a lot of people may not know Dick Clark now, but Dick Clark and American Bandstand, Scott, you know, it was a big deal. And he took us on like he was our dad or something. He just loved us. And he says, "These guys, you wouldn't believe it. They're from Canada. Here they are. It's one of my favorite songs." And then we played the song. And then we got invited back. But that was really the start of it. When that happened, I knew something big was going to be happening with this band.
That's awesome. I'd be mad at myself if I didn't mention this, but we do a feature on our show every week to promote the musical guest on Saturday Night Live for that week. So we're big SNL fans here on our show. You, of course, will forever be linked to Saturday Night Live for the Chris Farley, Patrick Swayze, Chippendales sketch, which quite honestly, I think is, if not the greatest SNL sketch ever, very close to the top. There's probably Cowbell and Chippendales. You guys know, Loverboy's contribution to pop culture. How do you feel about that sketch now? Did you know that it was happening at the time? Did you see it live when it happened? What was the deal with that?
Well, the deal was I was packing my bag to leave the next morning after playing a concert that night. And I'm in a hotel room like I am now. And the TV was on to keep me company. And Saturday Night Live came on. I was looking for it. I turned it on. Little did I know that they were going to do a sketch about us, because they didn't have to ask us. It's just a comedy thing, and they can do whatever they want. It's, floored me. I almost peed my pants. I couldn't even believe it. It was just so perfect, because the big fat guy is really the better dancer. And this guy's Chippendale, and he was realistically a good dancer, but Farley was a better dancer, and it was just so funny, and I mean, you just can't help but just totally bust out and laugh. But I got a few more, because we played Saturday Night Live twice, and the one time we played there, the host was Jerry Lewis.
Oh, yeah.
And and he was out there doing his whole thing, and we did a rehearsal, and we kind of did lighting rehearsal and just played a couple of songs and let him know how we sound. Next thing you know, it's time to do the show, and in between there's like an hour and a half, 2 hours, just kind of waiting period. I walked out the door. My dressing room was here. Jerry's dressing room was here, and we both walked out the door at exactly the same time, and we just froze and looked at each other, and then I went, I did a Jerry Lewis to him, right? And then he goes, you know what I mean? So I Jerry Lewis, and then Jerry Lewis, Mike Reno. It was unbelievable. I wish that was a sketch. That would have been a better sketch than the one we did then. You know what I mean? There was no cameras around. It was just one of those things that happened. And that's the kind of stuff that happens to us. We're just a bunch of guys traveling around, and whatever happens, happens. But there's been some funny, great stuff that's happened.
I mean, I'm asking you about the Saturday Night Live thing now, but I'm assuming that's kind of followed you around now for forever, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been, everybody mentions it, and it's on the reel. It's on the best reel, whatever, top 50 shows or whatever. We've had some pretty good luck. We put in a lot of hard work, but we've also had good management. The record company was very supportive, and we've had good luck. We just some luck seems to follow us, and you can't really count on luck. You just have to kind of hope it's happening every once in a while. But we've been a very lucky bunch of guys, and very grateful for it.
I don't know if luck is part of my next question, but you and I were both around when you were obviously, but when soundtracks were a big deal. Movie soundtracks were obviously huge. Sometimes movie soundtracks were better and more popular than the movie itself. You have been involved in two of the best ones, two of the biggest selling ones of all time, Top Gun and Footloose. I wanted to ask you about the Footloose one, and ask just kind of how that opportunity came about, and how the Ann Wilson pairing came about.
That's a good question, Scott. The Bruce Allen came to me one day. He's our manager, and he said, he said, Mike, I got this song, and they would like you to do it. And they want you to pick somebody that you would like to do it, because it's going to be a duet. It's going to be the love song for the new movie Footloose, which, if you know, before it didn't mean anything because we'd never heard of Footloose, right? We didn't know it was going to be a big, huge smash. And so I said, okay. And I called Paul and I said, Paul, they want me to do this love song, a duet. So first off, I told him, I immediately picked Ann Wilson. And I don't know if people know this, but Hart used to live in Vancouver. They lived there for about 11 or 12 years.
A lot of people still think Hart is a Canadian band because of the fact that they spent so much time.
Exactly. And a lot of people still think Loverboy is an American band. I don't know why, because we're always waving the Canadian flag, trust me. But anyway, so I picked Ann Wilson right off the bat. And I mentioned to Paul I was going to do it. He went, oh man, I don't know if that's such a good idea, because we're a pretty rocking band. And I don't know about doing a big ballad like that. And I said, let me put it to you this way, Paul. If I do this and it's in a movie that's just terrible, nobody's going to hear it. But if it turns out that it's a great movie and the song is great, which I know it is, then all it's going to do is make us more popular. And he said, well, okay, you got a point there. And that's kind of what started Loverboy doing some ballads, because it did so well. I think it sold like 27 million albums. I mean, it was ridiculous. And it was a song that just came to us really kind of remote. Keith Olsen produced it. We did it in Chicago in the middle of the winter. Loverboy was on tour and Hart was on tour. We met at a recording studio called Pierce Arrow, and they used to make cars there called the Pierce Arrow back in the day. And part of it was turned into a recording studio. And it was one of those nights. It was kind of a cold, blustery night. I got there. I was there about 2 hours, and then Ann didn't show up, and she was just a little late. And I just said, let's just wait a little longer. And the producer went, I don't know, Mike, it's coming up on 3 hours. I don't think she's coming. And then boom, she walked in, and we basically just sat down, closed the curtain into the control room, and just got to know each other for a few minutes, because I'd never met her. And then after a little while, I said, do you know the song? And then she says, absolutely. And I said, do you want to try it? So we stood up. I said, Keith, roll the tape on this one. The music came up. We sang it face to face in one microphone, one time. And that doesn't happen very often.
That was it.
Keith Olsen, the producer, just holds his hands up and he goes, thank you guys, perfect, we're done. And usually it's a procedure. It takes hours and hours. You keep doing it until you get it just right. And it was a real organic time. I mean, when you can sing it once with the guy, a girl in this case, you haven't met before. I did one with Sammy Hagar once too, and that was called "Remember the Heroes" on his 3-Lock Box album.
Yep.
And he picked me up in a yellow Ferrari, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is a yellow Ferrari!" And then at the end of the session, Keith Olsen, once again, who was producing, he said, "Do you want to go for dinner?" And I said, "Sure." So we got in his car, and I said, "Where are we off to?" He goes, "Santa Barbara." And I said, "That's going to take 3 hours." He goes, "Not the way we're going." And he hopped in his plane, and we drove to Santa Barbara and had dinner. I mean, this is stuff you can't make this up, right? Yeah. So we flew to Santa Barbara for dinner and then flew back. And that was during the Sammy Hagar duet that we did. But, movies have been really good to us. You're right, Scott.
Alfie Zappacosta said that the Dirty Dancing soundtrack basically provided him the opportunity to build a studio, stay home, and make music. He didn't.
Absolutely.
I remember that. College, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because what happens is if you're on the album goes, multi-platinum. Everything just goes multi-platinum. It just.
Was there a plan B, Mike? What if Ann didn't show up? Would you have recorded that song with somebody else? Was there a list?
There was no plan B.
There was nothing.
We just would have rearranged the times to try to do it another time. That's what.
You guys have managed to continue to record. It's been a while since the last album. Release was the last song, I believe, that was came out, which on your website, on YouTube, which is a great song. The last album, I believe it's been almost a decade since the last album, correct? Well, 20.
Yeah, probably. Let's see, yeah. You know what we do, right? What we're doing now is we're recording songs whenever we feel like it.
Right.
And to be honest with you, the selling of records or songs has become completely different than it used to be. So you go and spend $250,000, $300,000 going into a recording studio with the fellas and getting an engineer and cutting and do everything it takes to cut a record. And if you put it out now, and people report that you had 500,000 listens, and I look at the guy and I go,
"What does that mean?
What does that mean? I've got 500,000 listens. How does that relate to sales?" They go, "Well, nobody buys it; they just listen to it." And I go, "Well, that's really not fair." So I don't know. So you know what we do is we just cut a record. We cut a song or two here and there, and we put it on our website and say, "Here you go." To all our fans, it's our little way of saying thank you very much. This is kind of what we've been doing. We're still writing songs. I'm waiting to get a mix on a song I recorded in Toronto about a month ago with a friend of mine. That we wrote it together and went into a studio just outside up by Ajax. Cut the record in one day. Then I did a cancer benefit that night, and then I flew back to Vancouver. I was in town for one night. And that's the kind of stuff we do. And I do that all over the place. Paul's always writing, and we're always putting stuff together. Going in the studio and spending $300,000 to record an album that nobody's going to buy doesn't seem like the thing we feel like doing right now. We're just too busy doing other things.
That is fair, but as an old guy, I want an album. Just saying, no pressure.
Okay, no, you got a point. You know what I said to Paul the other day? I said, I wouldn't mind doing another record, but only if we can go in the studio together and cut the tracks rather than emailing parts back and forth. Because during COVID, when we cut release, the only two who got together in the same room were Paul and I. Mm-hmm. And we were both wearing masks because we didn't know what was going on. I mean, that 2 years was pretty crazy. Yeah. So
a comfortable thing to do.
And then, I actually enjoyed being home for 2 years, but, it's just because I hadn't been home for 2 years ever. It's always been away. You're always gone somewhere doing something, and you're always coming home or you're always leaving home. But COVID would kind of open my eyes to a lot of things, how important it is to get together to do music, not just do it over the internet, which is kind of, it still sounds good, but it's a different kind of love, it's just like, long distance stuff.
You mentioned Ajax. I tried so hard to get to that benefit in Ajax. It was in for the Campfire Circle, which is Rockin' for the Cure
right.
Money goes towards families living with cancer. Tried to get to that. I'm so thankful that you were a part of that. Mark Holmes from Platinum Blonde, and Willie, who was it? The guy from the guy from Willie T or whatever, Wild T.
Wild T, yeah. He was doing a lot of Hendrix covers and stuff.
Yeah,
it was
that's what.
And
I missed that, so I'm glad it went really, really well.
Right, it did go
well. Most of the summer touring through the U.S. You'll be back in Canada on July 25th at Budweiser Stage with Foreigner. Looking forward to getting back home. I mean, you're spending basically the whole summer in the States.
Yeah, it is. But I'm looking forward to Toronto. I used to live in Toronto. I really enjoyed the town. A lot of my friends live there. It's a big, great community, and the stage is right in the harbor there. It's beautiful. And you can see from your dressing room, you can see boats pulling up and going under this bridge, and it's really something. It's got that's a magic place. I heard they were going to rebuild it, but boy, I like it just the way it is.
Yeah, me too. Is there any other Canadian dates happening? I mean, because you're in Toronto and then you're right back to the States, right?
Yeah, we're in the States all summer. I don't know. I don't know if we're doing any more Canadian shows. After this tour, we're going to take a little rest, of course. We have some spot shows here and there. Mm-hmm. We have a show in Vegas in November, just by ourselves. And we're playing, Iowa and Idaho. And we do a lot of casinos, which are great now. These casinos hold like 3,500 people. Yep. And they're deluxe stages with deluxe sound system and lighting systems. And people come and there's deluxe restaurants. It's just a fantastic experience. I don't know if you've been to some of these casinos down in America. They're fantastic. Actually, Rama is another great one, and that's up in Northern Ontario.
Yeah, Rama, and it's a lot of the bands and artists of our era, right? So it is great to be able to go see these guys again that are still touring. I want to thank you so much, Mike, for being with us. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. I did meet you a long time ago back in the day, and it's been far too long. Can't wait to get you back in Toronto at Bud Stage. Enjoy tonight. Kansas City crowds can be a little rocking, I think.
Oh, it'll be rough, all right.
Thanks a lot for being with us, Mike. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Scott. It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate it. Great interview, my friend.
Thanks, man. Have a great summer.
You too.